Hello, everyone, and welcome to the podcast. I'm Paul James Caden, and today we have some new and interesting things to report on that have been in the news in the last 24 hours. I've seen this springing up across the internet and on various newspaper websites. I'm looking at it right now in the New York Post, and the title of this article and what everybody's talking about is "Mysterious Lights in the Sky Could Be Signs of Alien Life, Experts Say." Now, I'm going to read the article, the important parts of it. It begins by saying, "Could mysterious flashing lights among the stars be signals of extraterrestrial life? Astrophysicists aren't ruling it out. In a new paper, they've theorized that a number of inexplicable flickering lights observed over the decades may be interstellar communication lasers used to send messages from one end of outer space to the other." The article does go on to say that they say that the blinking lights are most likely derived from natural, if somewhat extreme, astrophysical sources, adding that the finding could change the study of astrophysics forever. The article goes on to say later on that researchers have pulled publicly accessible images, such as old military records dating back to the 1950s. And by comparing historical observations with current surveys of the sky, they were able to pinpoint instances of stars seemingly disappearing from the Milky Way. They call these vanished objects red transients. And they go on to say that finding an actual vanishing star, or a star that appears out of nowhere, would be a precious discovery and certainly would include new astrophysics beyond the ones that we know of today. The article then later goes on to say that as scientists understand the death of a star, their light dwindles to become a white dwarf, or they die in a sudden explosion called a supernova. But signs of a point of light in these images vanishing altogether may also tell of a new, as yet undocumented astrophysical phenomenon, or potentially extraterrestrial activity. They say that a more sci-fi explanation for the strange lights could be that they're lasers meant for communication via extraterrestrial structures built by some advanced alien civilizations, what scientists call Dyson spheres that can harness the energy in stars. So this is something that we've heard about probably a year or two ago with these stars that were blinking out, and they thought maybe there was some kind of structure around the star, like a Dyson sphere that was harnessing the energy of the star or some such thing. But this is fascinating stuff, that the more we look into the cosmos, the more our scientists are beginning to say there are things out there that we don't understand, and there could be physics or astrophysics or laws or particles that we don't even know about yet, that we're completely unaware of in our science. And now to some people that's fascinating, to other people that might be concerning or even terrifying. I mean, on one hand, in the scientific community, we have one group of people who are trying to perhaps prove that we are all here by design. And they see this as the hand of God or the fingerprint of God in a much grander cosmos than we ever imagined. Then on the other side of the fence, we have those scientists who wish to rule out anything to do with spirituality or religion. And they're very welcoming of ET to have come here and seeded our world with DNA and created all life as an experiment, but they're completely against some unseen force that perhaps even created the ET. And the same trickles down into the common person's life. People get up in arms when they read things like this and say, oh, these scientists, they're trying to destroy my faith and push God to the sidelines and say that we're here because of extraterrestrials. Or then you have people who say, well, they're going to discover something, but it's going to be demonic. So between the personal agendas and the personal fears of what something like this might allude to, it becomes kind of a mishmash, I think, in people's minds. And then, of course, we have all the conspiracy theorists who will talk about it and put the very dark veil over something like this, saying that it's all a hoax because there is no outer space. The Earth is flat. We're under a dome. There's nothing out there, and they're just hoaxing us with this whole thing. And they're really, again, going to bring through demons or devils through some portal, so through some spiritual portal that they want to open with CERN or some such thing. And round and round we go. But I want to say about all of this, we just need to relax. The cosmos is a lot bigger than we think it is. Theologians, philosophers, and mystics have known this for centuries. They're not surprised by what might be out there or what we could discover, or maybe even one day what might discover us. And I bring all this up because, these are the things that are on people's minds when they read this kind of article. It goes anywhere from what I call the 3 F's: fascination, faith, or fear. And I don't think there's any reason so much for the fear, although we have to kind of keep a check on the faith and the fright as well. Because if there is physical life out there in the universe, who's to say that they're so much more advanced than we are morally or ethically? Just because their technology supersedes our own. I mean, look how far we've come in just the last 15, 20, 10 years technologically here on planet Earth, but it hasn't advanced us one iota, morally, spiritually, or ethically. A lot of people would say that it's actually taken us backwards, that we're so dependent on technology now that we've lost our connection with ourselves, with other people, with God, with our spiritual roots. So who's to say? I mean, we have this idea that just because we look to the cosmos and maybe there's something out there that we don't understand, and maybe one day it comes drifting into our, the skies of our little blue planet. We have this idea, well, gee, they're so, they're from way out there somewhere. They're so much more advanced than we are. Oh, they must be so much more smarter and peaceful. Well, we have to watch that, because not necessarily. Again, this is something that theologians and mystics and philosophers have pretty much known for decades once again, that, there is stuff out there in the universe. And like us, there's good, there's bad, there's light, there's dark. So you can't throw yourself at the feet of, any being that comes drifting into the atmosphere thinking they're so much more enlightened and advanced or spiritual than we are, because they might not be. And that's something that could be detrimental. And I think also, something like this would have to be treated just like another person when you make a new friend or a new associate at work, or, wherever you meet someone. You don't give your trust away 100%, even if they seem like the nicest person in the world. Because some people keep their real motives hidden, their true colors hidden for a time. So again, what would make something so, from out there somewhere in the cosmos any different than we are, just because the technology is so beyond what we have or even know? How would we know? I mean, that's a good philosophical question and thought to think about. If we've become so detached with the piddly little technology that we have, what's to say that some of these beings out there, if they're out there, and they're building Dyson spheres around stars and traveling around, through, black holes and wormholes and dimensions in these things we call UFOs. What's to say that through their technology, I mean, look what they can do. And if they are physical beings, what's to say that they're not just as detached or even more so than we are, that maybe they have a God complex. Maybe some of them have lost touch with their roots, their ethics, their morality, their spiritual connection to the greater universe at hand. I mean, we always have to look at both sides of the coin when it comes to this sort of thing. And that also goes for those who are people of faith. We can't label everything as evil, and, I think we get, this is something that I say too many times on this podcast, so I'll just cut to the chase and say that's something that we need to stop, because it's not necessarily so. I always believe in that the words of Christ, by their fruits you shall know them. So whoever or whatever, if there's someone out there and we end up making contact, which I feel that, at one point, I'm fairly confident that in my lifetime, some kind of significant contact is going to be made. I mean, I could be wrong about that. I'm not claiming to be a prophet or anything like that, but I think it's very, very possible that we could make some kind of significant contact in some way with someone or something out there. And I would give them, me personally, I would give them any benefit of the doubt as I would a human being. Trust is earned. It's not given away. It's not bought. It's not, you're an extraterrestrial. You're something beyond a human. You can fly beyond light speed and walk through walls and levitate things with your mind and read my thoughts and God knows what else you can do. Gee, I trust you. No, that's not necessarily going to be my reaction. I'm sitting back. I'm watching. I'm reading in between the lines. I'm seeing what happens after a little period of time. Because I don't know. I don't know who this being is. I don't know where this being is from. And think about it. I mean, we have this abduction phenomenon that's going on in the whole ufology field. Now, here's beings that come right through the wall like a ghost and allegedly pick people up out of their beds and take them right through a solid wall or a solid ceiling. Some people say that it's their physical body they take. Some people say it feels like they take their consciousness, their soul out of their body and take it back to this massive ship. Well, look at the technology. Look what these beings can allegedly do. And look what they're doing to human beings. Look at the animal mutilations that happen all across the planet. And some of these animal mutilations, there's been, a human being or two or three that have been found with the eyeballs laser drilled out of the head and the anus and the tongue, and these parts missing and all the blood drained out of the body and not a drop around the body, just like the cattle mutilations. So look how advanced these beings would be, but look at the behavior. By their fruits you will know them. So my reaction would be, you have to prove yourself to me no matter what your technology is. So, I'm not going to pass judgment whether, something or someone is good or bad or good or evil until all the evidence is in. If ET lands on the front lawn of every government of the world by tonight, and wow, it's all over every news media, and, everybody is fascinated, and some people are afraid, and whatever the case may be, yeah, I'm fascinated. I'm definitely tuned in saying, wow, check this out. Am I afraid? No. Am I saying, golly gee, our space brother saviors are here? No. It's not really changing my life that much, or my spiritual faith, or the way I think, or connect, or commune with God. It's not changing any of that. Unless you're proving to me that, you're a good person, a good ET, and you're actually bringing, something beneficial to the human race to help us be better. With no strings attached, no mutilations, no, you get what I'm saying with that. I mean, I personally think that the universe is a pretty big and complex place. If you haven't listened to it, go back in the queue wherever you're listening to this podcast, whether it's Apple Podcasts or Stitcher or watching it on YouTube or YouTube. Go back in the queue and look at the video I put up, I believe it was last Friday, about UFOs in the Arancha book. There's again, is a book that has a pretty complex cosmology and talks about all these different life forms that are out there. Many of them spiritual and some of them physical beings just like we are, inhabiting other planets far out there. And that's always kind of been my thought. That's always kind of been my belief system. There's more out there than meets the eye. And we can't distort it through our theology, through our fear, through our suspicion. Sometimes we just have to roll with things and see how, what the final outcome really is. 2020 really, or 2019 has really been an incredible year when it comes to UFOs, things in the sky, mysterious lights in the universe. It's things have been really kind of ramping up to a crescendo. And they've been watching for decades these flashing lights in the cosmos, and they don't know what they are. I'd mentioned in my podcast, UFOs in the December Sky, just how many UFO sightings there actually were in places like, I believe it was Connecticut and Syracuse, New York, just this year alone. Astronomical amounts. And that's only two little places on the map on planet Earth. We're not even talking about, the other states or other countries. I mean, there's a lot that's been going on. And I really do personally think that this is a time where we have to think about how we might personally respond if there is a first contact in our lifetime, because there very well could be. And just let me say, if that were to happen tonight, tomorrow, next month, sometime in 2020, or whenever, here's the things I would kind of be suspicious of right off the bat. If ET comes to Earth and our government and ET comes out and our government says, well, gee, we've known about these guys for all these years. We've been working with them on certain technologies, and we just didn't know if the mass populace was ready. In fact, they weren't ready. They were too afraid of their culture changing and their religions changing. So we and ET just decided to hold back until people were more ready, and now we feel that you are. I'd be very suspicious of that. Because a lot of these government and big military bigwigs, if their lips are moving, as they say, they're lying. They're not they're not very honest, and sometimes not very good people. I mean, talk about ethics and morality. So anything that's working with these people behind the scenes all this time, helping to give us this technology for this, that, I'd be very suspicious of that. Right from the get-go, I would say, hey, you know what? If you're so advanced, if you're so beyond me, why are you sneaking around with these guys? B, why haven't you done anything to change these guys in the way they govern and the way they do things? We've seen lots of cell phones and tablets and computers and D-Wave computers and all this technology coming out, but we haven't seen any change in the way we treat one another, in the way we govern our countries. We haven't seen any change in our morality and our ethics. So right off the bat, that would be one for me that would put up a red flag, if not several. Something else I would be suspicious of is E.T. landing, coming out of his spaceship and saying, guess what, Earthlings? We made you. You're our creation. We are your creators. Not necessarily claiming to be God or our God, but that could be a part of it, possibly. So if any of those two things came into play, E.T. coming down and saying, guess what? All of your religion, all of your philosophy, everything you've ever thought is false. It's a load of junk. We made you. We put you here. We're your creators. We're your makers. Possibly, in small print, we are your gods or your gods of old. I'm suspicious of that. Because for me, any physical, flesh and blood, tangible being that can stand in front of me and I can hear and touch and feel and interact with, and it comes with I'll just say a God complex, I'm suspicious of that. Because my question then is, okay, if you made us all here on planet Earth, who made our consciousness? Who made the soul? Who made that part of us that so many people through the near-death experience have left the physical body, seen their physical surroundings, went to some other place that they called heaven or paradise. If you haven't really studied the science and the people who are scientifically studying NDEs and consciousness surviving the body, that's something you really need to look into. I mean, that's something I've been fascinated with since 1991, 1992, thereabouts. Always reading about it, always keeping up on it as much as I can. That would be my question. All right, if you spliced us together with all this DNA, who made the consciousness, the spirit, the soul, the spiritual or etheric part of us? And I'd like to know, and I'd like to see what the answer to that would be. I'm sure there would be an answer, and then my next question would be, well then, how come when people pass away, have a near-death experience or a deathbed vision, like they're looking into another world, someplace that they see before they die? Well, how come it isn't the planet, Zigzagtron that you're claiming to be from, or, the constellation, whatever, why are you not even factored into, this experience? When you have even a little knowledge, and I'm not the smartest guy in the world, but even if you know a little bit about these things, you can go down a rabbit hole to say, okay, but then what about this? Okay, well, what about this? And, again, anybody or anything that would have a God complex or tell you it's all just a hallucination, we got it all, you would have enough evidence to say, I don't know about that. That's like telling me I woke up this morning and I had Cheerios for breakfast, but now you're telling me I didn't. I had cornflakes when I know damn well I had Cheerios in the boxes in my cabinet, my cupboard in the kitchen. Sometimes you got to know what you know, and you have to own it. No matter who or what's coming along trying to sound uber intelligent and tell you otherwise. So that would be something I would be suspicious of. We made you, you're our children, we are your creators, or even we are your gods. That would put up, as I said before, one, probably several dozen red flags for me. The next one I would be suspicious of, perhaps not as much as the first two, but still suspicious, would be the one that some people do believe in when it comes to extraterrestrials and UFOs. ETs coming and saying, oh, we're not ET at all, we're you from the future. Well, golly, we certainly have changed a lot, haven't we? How do we turn into hairless beings with gigantic dark almond eyes, or whatever the case may be? That one would take some proving in order for me to believe it. This is not something I would take at face value to say, oh, okay. And if you're really from the future and you have no problem coming back and seeing humanity, from the year, 6 billion going back to the year 2019 or whatever, then let's take a trip. Show me some things from history that are going to answer some of the big questions and mysteries on planet Earth. And then we'll sit down and we'll talk, whether you're from the future or whether you're just, running some kind of intergalactic or spiritual con job. So, there's a lot to be said there, folks. And I saw this article online probably about 4 o'clock this morning. I woke up to go to the bathroom. I looked at my phone, which I usually don't do. But I saw this article and I bookmarked it. And it just really immediately started my brain thinking about these things. I mean, this is probably why I got up at 4 to go to the bathroom, and I didn't go back to sleep till probably at about 5 to 5 or 5 o'clock, because I was thinking about all this. And then, naturally, as I say, it goes, from my brain to the podcast when I'm really kind of mulling something over, of this magnitude. And I just wanted to share it with the audience out there, that there's things going on in the cosmos that we don't understand. They say it could be ET. Maybe it's not. Maybe it has to do with some, astrophysics that we don't even know about yet. Something so far beyond us. It's a big mysterious universe out there. And, I say to each and every one of us, don't limit it. Don't limit it through what we believe or don't believe or what we perceive or what we think. Because the truth may be stranger than fiction. And that truth in a physical universe that we currently live in could be good, could be bad, could be neutral. And I think sometimes we just, again, have to sit back and see how things play out without all of the suspicion and fear and panic. Bottom line for me, I'm not afraid of anything like that because I'm not afraid of it taking my life. I mean, what's ultimately, ET's going to come down and say, here's the way it is. You go with the new way that we're bringing to the earth and that your government agrees with, and those who don't will be executed or some stupid thing. I'm fairly sure of where I'm going when this is all said and done. So I'm not afraid of anything or anybody that may come along and, inevitably cause my physical demise. I mean, something that deceptive, whether it be of a spiritual nature or an ET nature, it may rule the roost temporarily, but it's not going to be a forever thing. So I'm not so afraid if they behead me or vaporize me with their laser guns or, whatever it is that they do. And I guess this being a spiritual show, that's the big question to end on. Do you have enough confidence and faith in what you believe that you feel neither threatened or afraid if these events were to start to transpire tomorrow? Contact with ET is made. We know something or someone is out there. Maybe it's getting up close and personal by coming right down here to our planet. Do you have enough confidence and faith in what you believe that you feel, come what may, everything's going to be okay? If it's good, if it's friendly, great. If it's not, and it's hostile to me and, sees that it's furthering its agenda much more quickly, or I don't fit into that agenda, so I have to be annihilated, then like I said, I know where I'm going. So why would I be afraid? If it's good, great. If it's negative, what's the worst it can do? And see, folks, when you have that kind of attitude, when you have that kind of faith, that takes all the sting and the fear and the anger and the suspicion and all this crotchetiness and heavy, dark thoughts and emotions that we have over these kind of things, it takes it right away. Because whether it's either or, you're going to be okay. I hope you all got something out of this podcast today. As usual, I really appreciate each and every one of you that listen. Until next time, this is Paul James Caden saying, stay safe out there, everybody, and I'll see you next time here on the Spirit Side.